Today on Larry King Now, two-time Grammy winner Jack Antonoff on his new band Bleachers.
The album is a lot about I write a lot about the time period that I was in high school. I'm constantly reflecting on that because of different things that happened in my life then. And the word Bleachers just felt so sort of dark and disconnected in the same way that the music can.
What he thinks about the state of the music business.
The culture of young bands is pretend you don't give a shit. Get up there, pretend you don't even care. You know, like the whole shoegaze, we don't care, we're indie, we don't care if we're big, we hate major labels, blah, blah, blah. It never spoke to me. It always felt so dishonest because it's like, you go through hell to be in a band. And now we're supposed to get up there and act like it doesn't matter.
Plus,
I took acid and then everything just exploded. And I basically went home, I came home from tour, and I fell into this 4-month period, 6-month period actually, where I wasn't leaving the house. It was
one taking?
Well, it wasn't the acid as much as everything that happened in my life. That just kind of unraveled it. But it was a massive moment in my life.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Jack Antonoff, better known as a member of the band Fun. Jack Antonoff is a musical jack of all trades, guitarist, pianist, drummer, and singer-songwriter. He has written music for popular artists like Tegan and Sara, Christina Perri, Sarah Bareilles, and most famously for Taylor Swift's new mega-hit album, 1989. And now the two-time Grammy winner is quickly making a name for himself as the lead singer of the new band Bleachers. Their debut album, Strange Desire, is available now on iTunes. Why Bleachers?
Bleachers was, I've never believed too much in a name having that much weight. I always thought that you have a band name and then you give it weight with the music. So I was, you know when you're working on a computer and you have to save something? So you just write something? Sometimes it's the day of the week, or if you're in a Sheridan in Ohio, you write Sheridan, Ohio. So I was working on the song, which is on the album, it's called Like a River Runs. And the song ended up being a really important artistic concept for what Bleachers became. And I just wrote Bleachers to save the song. It just kind of came out of nowhere.
Nothing to do with baseball.
Nothing to do with baseball. And I thought about it a lot, and I'm from New Jersey. The album is a lot about I write a lot about the time period that I was in high school. I'm constantly reflecting on that because of different things that happened in my life then. And the word Bleachers just felt so sort of dark and disconnected in the same way that the music can. And it came from a very natural place, so I just said, great, that's it.
Any connection, Fun, to Bleachers?
No, they're very separate.
You liken Bleachers to having a second child rather than a side project of Fun. Is that right?
Yeah, because I hate it. I hate it when people call it a side project. I think it's offensive, and it's like a way to categorize something that shouldn't be categorized. People are weird about that. I've noticed that. When I was making the album, I never thought, oh, what are people going to think of it? I just thought, more art, great. I had this idea. I felt compelled to do it. And then it came out and everyone was like, what is this? Is the other band okay? Is it a side project? Which one's more important? And so I thought when someone has another kid, no one's like, will you still love Jerry as much? They just accept it, and it is what it is.
Did the Fun people resent your leaving?
No, well, I'm still there. I just do everything. I just do both projects. Something that not everyone knows about Fun is that the three of us met on tour with our own bands. So we were all the heads of our own bands. And then we came together in what to us was like a delusional supergroup because no one really cared at the time. But, doing our own work was always part of the deal. So in my world, it's not weird.
Do other members of the Fun group go other ways too?
Yeah, Andrew works on film score and Nate will write with other artists. We're kind of all in different places.
But you're still friends?
Yeah.
Oh, good. The Huffington Post called Bleachers' hit single, I Want to Get Better, the catchiest song of 2014. But it was inspired by something somber, right?
Yeah.
What?
Well, the base of the song is this idea of I want to get better, which to me is something that we all think when we get up in the morning. And it's something that I think connects us as people. We're all just trying to get better from whatever the circumstances of our life are. I think being better is crap. I don't think anyone's better. I think wanting to get better, in my experience, is sort of like the highest form of consciousness. So I wanted to write about that. And I wanted it to be this big chorus where I was yelling, I want to get better. And then I thought, well, how can I give that weight? And so I had to sort of sew in my entire life story, or not my life story, but all the really crappy things that have happened in my life into all the verses and then sort of sum it up. With all that, I want to get better.
You have a lot of crap in your life?
Well, my sister died when I was 18, which sucks. That's crap.
How old was she?
She was 13, but she was sick most of her life with brain cancer. And then a couple months later, my cousin, who I was very close with, was killed in the war in Iraq. And all of this, 2 months before all that happened, was 9/11. So I had this moment in life where all my friends were going to college, and their lives were starting, and I was, and my life felt like it was ending. And I look back at it now. It's what I constantly write about now, just from the lens of a 30-year-old. When my life was supposed to be wide open, everything felt like it was falling apart, and I feel like I still think about it nonstop, and I still write about it.
A couple of lyrics from that song. You write, I've trained myself to give up on the past because I froze in time between hearses and caskets. Lost control when I panicked at the acid test. I want to get better. Woke up this morning early before my family from this dream where she was trying to show me how a life can move from the darkness. She said to get better.
Well, the first part is very literal, because you feel, when you lose people or you have extremely traumatic experiences, you kind of freeze, or part of you freezes there, and it's so hard to figure out how to get out. It's hard. I think about this a lot. It's what the album's really about. It's hard to figure out how to move on without keeping the pieces of the past that you need to keep to be the person you are, but not take so much with you that you're so complicated.
I lost my father at 9.
Oh, wow.
I still feel that.
Yeah, part of you freezes there.
Right.
It has to, and that's a beautiful thing or a terrible thing depending on how you can move forward. But the acid test line is literal also. A year after that, I was all messed up. I didn't know what was going on. I was on tour. I had lost all these people in my life, and I did acid, and it almost ended my life, literally. I was one of those people who, I should never do any drugs, and I don't. I'm very clean, because a lot of the wheels that drugs spin are already spinning, and no one needs them spinning faster.
What happened on acid?
I was in Northern California. I took it, and I became positive I had died, and I totally flipped out.
Thought you were dead?
I thought I was dead. Basically, I had all this post-traumatic stress. I wasn't dealing with it. I took acid, and then everything just exploded. And I basically went home. I came home from tour, and I fell into this 4-month period, 6-month period actually, where I wasn't leaving the house. It was
one taking?
Well, it wasn't the acid as much as everything that happened in my life. That just kind of unraveled it. But it was a massive moment in my life, because it was when I started dealing with things.
What about Roller Coaster?
Roller Coaster is somewhat of a lighter song. I mean, all the songs deal with this stuff. I feel like in your life, you have your experience, and that's what you have to write about, and that's the only way that you can matter as an artist or be unique, is to write about what you've been through.
They're all autobiographical.
Everything. I'm so envious of Billy Joel, who can sew a whole story of someone else, or two friends from high school, or Brenda and Eddie. I've never been able to do that. I write my lyrics in the same way that I would talk to you. They're very conversational.
Up next, more on Jack's impressive songwriting ability, specifically how he began writing with Taylor Swift and other artists. Much more. Stay tuned. Jack Antonoff is the guest. The album is Bleachers. Strong Desire is the title. On your music having widespread appeal, you recently said, "What I love doing is like working on things and imagining the whole world is hearing it. I'd rather have impact on a bigger level. I'd rather believe in what I do and think it's worth having a cultural impact instead of existing in some subculture. I think it's bullshit and it's tiring. You know what's cool? To be awesome and mainstream, not to be awesome and only let a certain amount of people hear it."
Do I sound like a 4th grader?
No, you sound like someone who wants to spread wide your wings.
Awesome is a tough word. That word doesn't work well on paper. But that's true. I grew up in the early, I was born in '84. I was conscious in the early '90s. Amazing time in music and art. You had Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins. The best bands were also the biggest bands. And there wasn't any of this bullshit of you have to be apologetic. It was the opposite. It was Eddie Vedder was the biggest rock star in the world, and he was political, and he was angry. But he wasn't saying, I don't want to be popular. He was saying, I want to change everything. Then rap metal happened and ruined the world. I really believe this. It made the mainstream so embarrassing. And so then, this is 97, 98, I start playing in bands, 2000, and that was the dawn of the era of the reactionary scene to how rap metal had ruined rock and roll. I've thought about this like crazy, and that's indie rock. So now I'm starting to play in bands, and the culture of young bands is pretend you don't give a shit. get up there, pretend you don't even care. You know, like the whole like shoegaze, we don't care, we're indie, we don't care if we're big, we hate major labels, blah, blah, blah. It never spoke to me, and it always felt so dishonest because it's like you go through hell to be in a band. And now we're supposed to get up there and act like it doesn't matter. I grew up on Springsteen where it's like every show is the most important thing that's ever happened. It's life-changing. And so I believe that, and I want that, and I've struggled my whole life to not be ashamed of that.
How'd you hook up with Taylor Swift?
We met at an award show, which is funny.
Why?
I don't know, because who meets at an award show? It just seems like a funny
artists
thing.
are at an award
Yeah, I guess it's not. It seems funny to me.
Okay.
But we met.
Clicked right away?
Yes, because in that circuit, you know what these places are like. You know, like it's not the coolest, most relaxed atmosphere. So it's very easy to spot a great person because a lot of people are acting like garbage. They're, focused on
Me.
Yeah, it's not the best atmosphere. So I saw her. It was at the EMAs in Hamburg, and she was so cool and wonderful and warm. Then I saw her again at the Grammys, and we kept running into each other at these award shows. And then one day we were hanging out, and we were talking about Yaz, known in Europe as Yazoo, which is an incredible 80s band. And we were talking about the song Only You, which not a lot of people know. And we were just relating on it, and I said, I've been working on this song inspired by that. And I showed it to her, and she was like, I want to write lyrics to that song. And that was it.
So what, you write the music, she writes lyrics?
Lyrics, yeah. And we just kind of work on it together. She'll do lyric and melody, I'll send her a track.
So it's by both of you?
Yeah. What's cool about working with her is she writes, and I think this is why she resonates so deeply with so many people. She's totally, when she's being artistic, when she's working, she's not a superstar. She's a 15-year-old in a room with a guitar writing.
What makes this current album so different? Why is it a massive hit? You're part of it.
Well, the most important element is that it's honest, and the songwriting is absolutely wonderful, I think. And that's the basement level. It's the meat and potatoes of it.
And what's special about her?
What's special about her in this album is that very few people nowadays, the way that people disappear and huge stars can just go away nowadays, things are so quick, I think people are more terrified to take chances. And she continuously takes chances. Look at this album. It's a total departure from country. She's got all these 80s influences. She's coming from a place where that's not expected of her. It's brave. That's what people want in artists. That's what Michael Jackson always did. That's what Springsteen always did. That's what all the artists we love always did. And that gets harder and harder for big artists to do when they're terrified of disappearing. So she could have, this album is either going to be the biggest album or a disaster because she took a huge chance.
Willie Nelson's never been afraid of just being himself,
He's
right?
the best.
Yeah. What do you think about her choice to split from Spotify?
I think that it's another brave decision. She's really blazing the trail. Something has to change in that area. That's obvious.
Do you like writing with others?
I love it. I love it so much.
But you're an individual artist, right? You write your own, you sing, you...
Totally separate. It's like the difference of like having like a steak or a salad. Like writing, when I write for myself, I'm just thinking and
Obviously, if you're writing
ideas.
for others, you're not writing autobiographically.
Sometimes you are, though, in a weird way, because you're sitting in a room. I never write a song for someone else. I never sit there and say, oh, I'm writing, a Michael Jackson song. I write with people. It's collaborative. So the idea is 1 + 1 = 1,000,000. You're not trying to do what you did alone in the room.
But it's still you.
Yeah, so if someone's talking about lyrics of Lost, or I can throw words in there that mean a lot to me.
You won the Best New Artist Grammy in 2013 with Fun. But that award, I understand, has a stigma attached to it, which is what?
Well, that night we were at a party, and we came out, and there was like some paparazzi, and we were trying to like get away from them, and they started screaming, "Everyone who wins Best New Artist is a failure." So I think that's what people think.
Oh, like the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do?
Didn't work.
Yeah, it's some uptown shit, right?
Coming up, we'll talk to Jack about his strong opinion on gay rights and what he thinks about the current state of the music business and his fascination with the O.J. Simpson trial. Stay tuned. Bleachers' album is Strange Desire, first album, right?
First album.
Our guest is Jack Antonoff. The current state of music.
It's so complicated. I think that it's great because it's at a tipping point, and that's exciting. Something's got to go somewhere. The one thing I focus on is touring is better than ever. And all this, because you can't duplicate it. And we're living in a world where everyone's duplicating
That
everything.
night, as happens for that audience that night.
And they've tried it. They've tried to do like streaming live concerts in movie theaters and people buying tickets, but you could steal music, you can copy it, you could do this, you could do that, you could get a movie off of a torrent or whatever, but a live show in the flesh.
How about artists working with other artists? Is that new?
It's. I think people are, in a good way, I think artists are banding together more and more because music is changing so much and people are not using each other, but getting involved with each other to reach new fan bases.
Remember when Sinatra recorded duets?
Yeah.
And people thought that was revolutionary.
They did?
Yeah, of course. Of course, Bing Crosby didn't sing with Dick Haymes.
What, did people hate him for it?
No.
It was just amazing.
They just transitioned easy.
Interesting.
You've been outspoken about gay marriage. Why?
It's one of the only issues that I can think of right now that's entirely black and white. I don't see any other side to it. I see no argument. And, politics, the economy, international affairs, you look at all this stuff, there's so much nuance, there's so much gray area.
No middle ground, you mean?
There's no middle ground with
You're either for it or against it.
It's a human rights issue. There's
Yeah, of course, civil rights.
It's insane. And it's also, I talked to my grandfather a lot, who's no longer here, but he marched with Martin Luther King in Washington. And so I grew up in the generation when the verdict's out. There's no question, racism is total evil. It's absurd. It's like smoking on an airplane. It's crazy to imagine anyone having an issue with that. So it's so important to realize, to not be paralyzed and say, we're in that moment. We're in that moment when you could still have a debate with someone about trans rights, gay rights in general. That's crazy. 10, 20 years from now, my kids will say, they won't even understand it, the same way I don't understand that kind of racism.
I never understood it 50 years ago.
Yeah.
60 years ago. I never understood it when I drank from a colored water fountain in Miami.
It's wild.
It's dumb.
But
it's also economically dumb.
So you know the importance of when you're in that moment.
I knew King.
That's incredible. So it's important for me to recognize we're still in that moment, so you have to be loud.
You said you're excited for children. Don't you worry about this world they're coming into?
Yeah.
Do you have children?
No, I want to have children. Do you have children?
Yeah.
Is it nice?
Three grown and 2 small.
The whole thing's great?
Yeah.
There's nothing stressful about it?
Stressful?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
But you never think I wish I didn't?
No, never.
Because that's the thing. I feel like growing up, like sitcom culture taught me kids are horrible. But now I talk to people who have kids and actually think about having kids, and everyone says it's the greatest thing on earth.
They're not horrible. They do some dumb things.
Okay.
They do dumb things. You gotta
How did you manage being you and working and having kids?
I managed it, but, I wasn't always home all the time. I'm a better father of my younger children than I was of the older, although we're all close.
Interesting.
But when I was doing 3 jobs and making a career,
Yeah.
I wasn't home as much.
Because that's what I struggle with. It's I want to have kids now, but I'm also not nearly interested in slowing down career-wise.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
But once your child is born, your life has changed.
Really?
Oh, once, you cut the cord. On the older ones, I couldn't because they didn't allow you into the room. Now you can go in, and when that child comes out, there's someone totally dependent on you, Jack.
Each time? Just as
Each time. They're dependent on you.
I'm very neurotic, though, and I'm scared that the entire pregnancy I would make my partner crazy. I would drive her insane, like trying to micromanage everything. Does a chemical set in?
Yeah, no, they handle it well, though.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the girl.
Okay.
Tell me about this fascination with O.J. Simpson. I was very involved in that, did shows every day on it, broadcast the car ride.
What was it like from your perspective?
Well, I knew all the characters.
You knew all the characters?
I knew O.J. well.
Personally?
Yeah, correct.
It's unbelievable. I look at that.
Why were you, and how old were you?
It was 94?
Yeah.
10?
Yeah.
94, 95. I was 10. I look at it I'm fascinated with the Kennedy assassination, which obviously I wasn't around for. And it's the same thing for me. I love hearing about it from my father because, 9/11, I was there for that. O.J. trial, these moments that change everything. I felt like O.J., at least in my world, and it seemed like the whole world, or at least America, just changed everything. The conversation about race, it was just a fascinating scenario.
Well, he's the most famous person ever charged with murder.
That's absolutely true. It was just so shocking in the country. It's almost how I feel. It kind of ties into how I feel about popular music and my theories of not wanting to be indie or anything like that. I would love it when it's a good thing like Michael Jackson, and it's a terrible thing like O.J. But there's nothing better than when the whole country's talking, because it's like we're all friends, and we're all in on something, and we're united. So when O.J. was happening, you could walk down the street, you could talk to a guy living on the street. You could talk to the richest guy in the world. You could talk to a guy who's 3 feet tall, a lady who's 10 feet tall, black, white, Hispanic, Jewish, Arabic, anything. We're all talking about OJ. And in the 90s, we were all talking about Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. And when I was really young, we were all talking about Michael Jackson. And during 9/11, we were all talking about that. And good or horrible, that's when the country and the world is exciting to me. And that's actually what I look for in the music, is I love it when we're all talking.
Except with OJ, we weren't texting, we were talking.
Which was nicer.
You bet. Next, Jack will answer fan questions from social media, and we'll play a little game of If You Only Knew, and we'll be right back. My guest, Jack Antonoff, Bleachers album, first album for Bleachers, Strange Desire. Any plans for a new album for fun?
Starting to think about it. I get really like in headspaces of albums, and I'm in the middle of a tour right now. I'm playing Baltimore tomorrow. I'm like very much in this, so it's hard for me to think beyond it.
You're going to still record with Taylor Swift? Going to still write with her?
I love writing with her, yeah. I think we have a lot more that we could do together.
Okay, we got a ton of social media questions. At Still a Mystery on Twitter, how long does it take for you to write a song?
Sometimes months. I Want to Get Better literally took 4 months. And then a song like Wild Heart, which is the first song, took a few hours.
At Mela Burgess on 2 tweets, what's the best thing a fan has given you?
Letters. I get letters from fans, and I read them, and hearing how the music matters to them is so important to me because I grew up that way.
Also, Mela Burgess tweets, how did you come up with the idea for the roller coaster video?
A friend and I just talked about it. Oh, no, someone sent that idea to me, and then the director and I talked further. I liked the idea of doing something extremely dangerous to make a video.
At BFountain7 on Twitter, who are some of your favorite bands?
Well, I mean, the Beatles are the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But I grew up, starting with Springsteen and then moving into more like punk rock music like Propaganda and Kid Dynamite. And lately I've been very obsessed with a lot of 80s music like Yaz and Erasure.
What made the Beatles so special?
They're the best songwriters on earth, first and foremost. So you have that, but then production and the aesthetic sense. I mean, those albums still sound better, cooler, more interesting than anything.
Their harmony, too, pretty
The harmony is amazing, but if you listen back to like Magical Mystery Tour or Sgt. Pepper, it's like, that's still more forward-thinking than anything I've heard.
At Gay Hairs Lights on Twitter, what are your plans for 2015?
More Bleachers touring that will be announced probably next week, actually.
What kind of crowds come to Bleachers?
I always feel like Bleachers crowds are like the outcasts from every scene. It's like you can't pinpoint who they are.
All age groups?
Yeah, it's very upfront and a lot of younger people, and then I kind of look beyond, and everyone gets older and older, and then I see older people.
What do your parents think of your career?
They're more invested than I am.
Really?
Literally, they travel all over the world with me.
What does your father do?
He's in business, but he's an amazing ragtime guitar player who studied with Reverend Gary Davis Jr. when he was probably like 17 years old, living in Bergenfield, New Jersey. And he loved it, and so. Never
got over the death of your sister, though, right?
No, and I think that brought us, like, when she died, I was starting my career.
You're the only one left?
No, there's 2 of us. We all just started to do everything together, so they come everywhere with me.
Boy or girl? You have a brother or
I have a sister. I have an older sister.
Okay, a game of If You Only Knew. Just throw some questions at you, right?
Okay.
Who's the first girl you kissed?
Alana Khan.
Where was this?
At a film, I Know What You Did Last Summer in Teaneck, New Jersey.
Wow.
I hear people laughing. And
you ever find out what happened to Alana Khan?
We run into each other every once in a while. I think she's an adjusted adult.
And you're not yet? No. Favorite song of all time?
Favorite song of all time? God, that's so hard. Probably I'm on Fire by Springsteen.
Best city to perform in?
Salt Lake City. There's just something about it.
Where?
Salt Lake City. I don't know why.
Mormon country.
Maybe it's because the religion's there, so they want to cut loose really hard, but the shows are crazy there.
Your favorite season of the year?
Summer. I hate the winter. It's so depressing.
One musician you'd bring back from the dead if you could?
It's a really interesting one. George Harrison.
What would be some current artists you'd like to collaborate with?
I love Robin. She's a Swedish pop artist who I just am obsessed with.
What's a guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure? I watch some bad TV.
What, like?
I don't want to get into it. It's because it's pretty lowest common denominator stuff. But it's like meditation for me. I shut off.
If you weren't a musician, what would you do?
I've never known how to answer that question.
Celebrity crush when you were young?
Gwen Stefani, like 90s No Doubt era.
Something that really makes you angry?
The way a lot of people treat women in our country.
Something that always makes you happy?
Something that always makes me happy? Being in New Jersey.
You like Jersey?
I love New Jersey.
Do you like Jersey Boys the musical?
I love Jersey Boys the musical.
One of the great musicals.
Jersey's brilliant because it's right outside of the greatest city in the world, so it's this constant looking in the window of the party vibe.
But it's in between Philly and New York. It's got Newark, but it had Philip Roth.
Yes.
Craziest fan encounter?
Craziest fan encounter? I don't love to be, I have a lot of germ issues, so I mean, I've been...
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so someone once like grabbed me and was like licking.
Do you open doors with your elbow?
Yeah, I have a whole system to move through the world without touching anything. If I were to give you a handshake, it would be a really big deal for me.
I won't try it. I don't want to offend.
For you, I would. And then I'd run to the bathroom, wash my hand, but I would still love to touch you.
See, but I'd be offended by that.
You would? You wouldn't know.
No, that's why I wouldn't know. I don't know. I don't believe in germs. My daughter doesn't like going to movies because someone else sat in that seat.
It's a weird world.
For you.
Yeah. You probably have a better immune system because you weren't worried about this crap.
I never worried about it. Your most cherished memory?
My most cherished memory is my father playing me Bob Dylan's "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right" as a very young child.
Really?
And it's a broad memory. It's not like it was just something that happened a lot, but I can really feel it.
What do you most look forward to?
Shows. Playing shows.
You like performing?
I love playing shows. Ever since there was always a feeling when I was first started playing shows when I was 14 where it was like, oh my God, there's a show in 2 weeks, or there's a show tomorrow, and there's just this feeling like it's gonna be it could be the greatest thing in the world. It could be the best show ever. And I think that about every show. I'm playing in Baltimore tomorrow, and it's like, it could be the best show ever.
You ever forget what city you're in?
No.
No. Do you ever bomb?
I bomb when I'm talking to the audience sometimes. Musically, I don't really bomb at this point. It's been like 15 years. But sometimes it's hard, sometimes people just want you to play. And when you talk, I love to talk and I love to like connect, and sometimes people just don't want it.
Great pleasure meeting you. Jack Antonoff. I want to thank him very much. Bleachers' debut album, Strange Desire, available now on iTunes, and you can find me on Twitter at King's Things, and I'll see you next time.